In November of 2023, the Swell Pod took a 10-day journey across 5 states, traveling 3,580 miles with one challenge in mind.
And that challenge was to interview 100 pleasantly rebellious humans to uncover deep truths about what it takes to create something that has never existed before, challenge the status quo, maybe even change the world.
This is the Kiln Road Trip, created and produced by the Swell Pod.
In partnership with Kiln, Moterra Camper Vans, and sponsored by Taurus.
I'm Spencer McKeown.
And I'm Josh Taylor, and together we're the co-hosts of the Swell Pod and your guides on the Kiln Road Trip. Follow along on the journey.
Be sure to subscribe to the podcast, follow the Swell Pod on social media, and subscribe to your YouTube channel at, you guessed it, the Swell Pod.
This is interview 5 of the Kiln Road Trip, and today we're at Kiln Park City talking with Ryan Bedinghaus, the executive director of Hyperquake. Hyperquake is an independent strategy and design studio that builds ambitious brands and experiences for those eager to activate a vision. Thanks for tuning in. We hope you enjoy today's episode.
I'm Ryan Bedinghaus, and I'm the executive director of Hyperquake Mountain West, if you will. So represent our Park City office, but we're headquartered in Cincinnati, Ohio. Have been around for about 40 years. We started doing a lot of work with Procter & Gamble and helping their businesses define their stories.
Cool.
And really how to innovate into other categories. So at the heart of everything that Hyperquake does is we help tell good stories for brands that connect with their customers, so their audiences, and then figure out how to reach them in those audiences through digital and traditional methodology or channels.
Yeah.
Let me just ask you, where did you grow up? How did you get to Utah, just briefly? And then we'll dive into storytelling and something.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So I grew up in a little village inside of the city of Cincinnati. It's a village called St. Bernard, which there's like 2,700 people, but it's within like the city limits of Cincinnati. So it's pretty special.
Yeah.
It was kind of Mayberry when I was growing up, right? Like didn't lock cars, which was kind of crazy within, the city of Cincinnati. But I grew up, in a house. I'm one of 6, so German Catholic family, if you will. And mom and dad, they both just like worked like really hard. So my dad was in the bowling business, so like actually like owned bowling alleys. And I just saw his grit and grind. I mean, it was sun up to sundown, and just really operating what turned into like 6 or 7 different small businesses that were super successful as I was growing up. So we kind of learned the values of what hard work is. And, it's not a 9 to 5, it's whatever is going to put food on the table for a family of 6. Meanwhile, my mom, she was a nurse and she went back to get her master's. And so she was always bettering her life to provide for the family. So, I just learned very early on the power of grit and, you have to be present in people's lives, I would say, but like, you also have to figure out like just how to make it by and how to give best for your family. So, I started in the branding world, through a local company to Cincinnati, and it was through just a friend. It was her mom that gave me a chance to come in and start entry level, and that is when I learned the power of a true story. I was working on Old Spice deodorant actually, and it was right in the middle of, are they going to reposition this business to win against competitors? And here I am, 24 years old, sitting in boardrooms with big time executives, and I mean, now CEOs of companies that were trying to figure out how they were going to reposition Old Spice to win in the market. And that then was when I was like, oh my gosh, a power of a strong brand story and a brand character and a tone of voice can really change the trajectory of a brand, but even make money. And so now if you look at Old Spice and you see all the goofy commercials, that's all with intention. And no longer working on Old Spice, but that led me to kind of Hyperquake, where I wanted to actually take those skills and start to work on smaller and entrepreneurial businesses and help business owners with passion, such as my parents, be able to drive their business to the channels to make money. So I've been with Hyperquake for 10 years. 7 of those years were spent in Cincinnati, working on more regional businesses. And then the CEO of my company asked me to come out here and to be the founder of this office out here in Park City, to take our story on the road and tell more of the country and world about who Hyperquake is and how we can move business.
That's cool.
It's amazing. I think it's actually really fitting, considering, a lot of what we're looking at is, how do you take an idea and create a movement? And, what you're talking about in relationship to visual identity and story, a lot of that comes at a really early phase of helping people see the reality of something that maybe they couldn't have seen without it. Right. And I don't know, what in your opinion, what makes that work, or what makes a good story, I guess?
We at Hyperquake, and I do believe this just in any story, is you have to be consumer focused and consumer obsessed. In order for your business to resonate with someone, you have to understand what are the gaps and what are the barriers, and what does someone need from a product, service, business, or whatever it may be. So I obsess around getting to the right insights of what motivates and what drives your customer. We believe in order to move product, you have to move people.
Yeah.
And that starts with understanding what's going to move them. So we do a lot of work in the upfront around getting to know someone, right? Quantitative, qualitative research is really important. What else is happening in the market to be different? And so we spend a lot of time in our process around just getting to understand people and understanding those values that lie within those individuals. Then we can create the right verbal and visual strategy to support, which leads into what content do they need to see across what mediums, what channels. But in order to do all of that work, which I see a lot of mistakes being had within the market, of people just create content to create content without a real reason of what's going to move those people to get them to do something.
Yeah, a lot of people talk about customer obsession and interviewing. And is there an example you have where it demonstrates what it really, really takes to really truly get to that point?
Yeah, well, I think the brand world that we live in, and I say brand world from business KPIs, understanding how you're going to be successful, all the way to in-market execution, is so large, and marketing is somewhat like a buzzword. It's so nebulous in regards to what it really means. So customer obsession, I think, to everyone means something different. But I think it comes down to having intimate, good conversations with the people that you want to serve and understanding how you add value. If you're not adding value, then why are you doing something, right? It's convenience. It's, prestige. What is the value that you exist as a brand, or why you exist as a brand? And if you just spend time talking to the people, quantitatively, qualitatively, that's how you're going to get those insights to be able to figure out what you're going to obsess over. So I have a bunch of examples that I could probably go into from, previous customers, but I think given our time, it's spend the time to get to know your customer and what's going to move them to be able to create the right story to drive obsession that they then have with you as a brand.
Yeah, I agree.
Once you've kind of identified that, and you're really clear on exactly your customer and exactly their values, and how do you approach then, I guess, finding the right thing for them, the right message, the right voice, and the right story for them? A lot of testing, I'm sure. Help me understand that a little bit more.
Fail fast.
Yeah.
And we would never just be naive enough to say that this is the idea that we have and this is the right one for the market.
Yeah.
Whenever we're doing creative exploratory, there's always 3 or 4 ideas that we're taking to market to test. That's through small, paid campaigns to be able to get, validation. But we also optimize all the time. We use data to help to support our decisions. But ultimately, that's what our customers want too, right? Our customers are CMOs that are paying up to CEOs or to board members, and they need to be able to walk in with a dashboard to say, hey, boss, I really want to make the big marketing spend of X amount of dollars. Look at the work we've done over the past 6 months around validating and testing. We're ready.
Yeah.
And we give our customers the confidence to sell into their executives or their teams that they're ready to make a big spend. But what's the net outcome, right? It always needs to be attached back to a business outcome. I mean, I see a lot of people in this creative space that they, create beautiful things, but forget that it's a business too, and businesses need to make cash. And that would be something that I think that we obsess about as well, is does our creative actually convert? Convert is what our customers and their executives, their board really cares about.
Before we get into the rest of the episode, we want to thank the partners and sponsors who made the Kiln Road Trip possible. The Kiln Road Trip is brought to you by Kiln. Kiln is a boutique co-working and flex office community with 13 locations in 6 states across the West, dedicated to providing innovative workspaces that empower your team to thrive. Whether you're a solo visionary or an enterprise-level team of up to 100, Kiln transcends being merely a place to work. It's a hub for learning and connecting with like-minded professionals that will make you and your team love where you work.
And if you haven't stepped foot inside a kiln yet, you really need to. On this road trip, we visited every single location, and trust us when we say once you see these beautifully designed spaces, meet the talented team, and connect with fellow members, you won't want to work anywhere else.
Locations include Utah, Colorado, Idaho, Oregon, California, and Arizona. And they're growing too, with multiple locations set to open in 2024.
Yeah, so be sure to check out the kiln locations nearest you by booking a tour at Kiln.com and answer SWELL in the question, how did you hear about us? Once you complete the tour, you'll be entered into a competition where you could win a 1-year membership, their club membership at Kiln.
Yep, you heard that. That's Kiln.com, book a tour, and be sure to mention SWELL in the question, how did you hear about us?
The Kiln Road Trip is also brought to you by Moterra Camper Vans, a luxury camper van rental company for iconic road trips. Their top-of-the-line vans are available at 7 locations located near America's best outdoor adventure destinations. They have consistently earned the highest customer ratings in the industry, making Moterra camper vans your gateway to adventure without sacrificing on comfort or service.
That's true, and initially we wanted to take this journey in a 1960s VW bus, but thankfully we found Moterra instead. With 3 van options, we took the Pop Top Classic, which sleeps 4 and is best for those who want to maximize floor space and storage. This was critical for us because it needed to sleep the entire crew, we needed space to edit, and we were traveling with large amounts of equipment, luggage, and other goodies that we picked up along the way.
And this van took us through all 3,580 miles of the trip. Super comfortable and sweet to drive.
And actually, Moterra offers fully planned itineraries if you'd rather leave the planning to someone else.
Visit gomoterra.com/swell. That's gomoterra.com/swell.
This episode is also brought to you by Taurus. Taurus is leading the charge in home energy storage. Taurus makes it easy to achieve energy independence and a greener tomorrow. The Taurus station provides everything you need to generate clean power, efficiently store electricity, and easily manage your energy use.
And installing a Taurus station offers plenty of benefits, including save money on your electricity bill,
also ensure energy security with backup power during outages,
reduce carbon emissions with renewables.
You can also automate EV charging and HVAC systems with 100% renewables.
And enjoy unrivaled system monitoring and support.
If you like the sound of those benefits, get a quote to build your Taurus station in less than 30 seconds. Super easy at taurus.co. That's TORUS.co. Now, let's get back to the episode.
Yeah, I mean, any advice you have for up and coming, I suppose, storytellers that are trying to really make an impact, or any advice you want to give to the audience that's listening?
Yeah, I have 2 pieces I'll say is, being an expert in story, you need to know your own story. And your own story is not about what you've done professionally. Right. It's actually, if you look deeper and you look into really how you became, a professional, there's a person behind that. And, I think your childhood and the way that you've grown up in your young adulthood and your college life, those can all be spun into a really powerful story, but it takes time and it takes testing, and it takes testing in large groups, right? Networking groups. Who are you, Ryan? What do you do? And you have to keep refining that story to actually make it compelling. I believe people buy people when they're doing business. Of course, you have to have good product. But at the end of the day, relationships are built on, can I trust you? Do I like you? And sometimes, do I actually want to go out and have like a beverage or have a dinner with you and give you my personal time to get you to know you as a person? So know your story. But I think the second part of it would be talk to as many people as you possibly can. Like if you're afraid to go and network and go into situations, like take the risk and go into a room of 100, 200, thousands of people, or go to conferences that you don't know and give yourself small goals. I'm going to talk to 10 new people. And you'd be surprised at how much you can learn from hearing other people's stories. And at the end of the day, think about who you remember and why you remember them, and try to take that advice and, start to weave it into your own story to create something compelling. So you're one of those individuals when you leave a conference, someone is thinking, wow, like, I met Ryan and he talked about his father that owned a bowling business. Like, that's weird. But those are memorable tokens that I think all start to pay off when people are starting to think about who they want to do business with. They also want a story as well. You
got nothing to lose at those types of events. Would you recommend interviewing 100 people in 9 days?
That's a lot. That's a lot. Hope you all remember me.
We're number 6.
So
Ryan.
Can I actually? So
last question.
Well, so it's going to be 2. Is that all right? I'm sorry, but so talking about your story and having it be refined, I'm interested in like the Ryan that's sitting here today. What was, if there was one moment that was the defining moment for you that got you to where you're at, like what would you say that is?
You talking about like just like in the story or just like professionally?
Yeah, so in your story.
Like
your story.
In your story, the thing that, maybe was the most defining moment for you.
It was moving out of my comfort zone of Cincinnati and knowing someone through some connection, right? I would go to an event and I would know someone through through another organization. I would always have a comfort zone. And then I came to Utah. Not born here, not raised here, didn't go to school here. And I had to really figure out how to tell my story. So of course you'd go in and I would just talk about Hyperquake and I would talk about my accomplishments in my career. And finally, one of my mentors out here, his name's John Bowers with Silicon Slopes, who I really like John a lot. He's like, Ryan, no one cares. Like, who are you as a person? Like, do you have a family? How did you get here? How did you grow up? And he was really pushing me to look inside of my own self and figure out why should someone care about Ryan? And ever since I've been able to approach conversations and not just talk about business, but being able to create a level playing field of getting to know someone on a human level is key. But we also say that's the key to a good brand
100%.
It's understanding someone and who a brand is on an emotional and on a human level. And if your customers can feel that, you win.
That's what I love, when those lessons that you can see them translating just to everything and that it's true, right? So I know, so we're slightly over, but I do want to ask, a big part of what we're doing on this trip is, these 100 people, what does it take to take an idea and create a movement out of it? What does it take to and create something that's never existed before, something that's innovative, maybe that changes the world or challenges status quo? What do you think it is that you need to be able to do something like that? What would you say?
I'm going to go back to communication. Yeah. I really do think it's, if you have an idea or if you have something that you might think is bonkers or off the wall, like, just talk to people. And and it doesn't have to be this huge pitch deck. It doesn't have to be something glamorous. If you just talk to people and get to know them, you then gain a level of trust to be able to ask them what they think about an idea or a possible solution. And you'll be pleasantly surprised that a lot of people want to help, and they want to help for free. They want you to succeed. If they like you as a person, they're invested in your professional growth. They want to offer the support to get something moving, especially if it has a purpose. If it's going to change the way that someone does something or change the way that the world is, people are good. And I think it's, if you just get to know them on a human level, they want to help you, especially if you have a compelling idea.
Thanks for tuning in to today's episode of the Kiln Road Trip. Be sure to follow along on the rest of the journey, and you can do that in 2 ways. 1, subscribe to the podcast, whether you're listening on Apple, Spotify, or maybe even watching on YouTube, and follow along on all of our social media platforms, whether you're on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, or TikTok, @the Swell Pod. Thanks again, and we'll see you in the next episode.